those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
It is the day of a new era. Or is it?
Or the beginning of the end, depending on what your perspective is, right? So,
well, that's what people say. You know, they say either that this is the, you know, the end of the nation, or, you know, the beginning of a whole new way of doing business.
much to do about nothing.
Yeah,
this
really
country is structured where nobody's going to destroy it. I mean, look, we've had some presidents that were less than you know, great leaders, and we've managed to survive through their tenure. You know, this tripartite system does kind of insulate the country from being, you know, unless, you know, the only way you can get rid of the government is a military coup. So that's the, you know, that happens in the South American countries and the third world countries. They have military coups, but this government is way too bureaucratic to get eliminated by one guy.
That's true. You know, but I think it's interesting that, you know, they're all saying about the smooth transition of power. You know, there are no tanks and no armed militias out in front of the Capitol building, and in one respect, they're right. We don't have tanks and whatnot out there, but we do have armed forces out in front of the Capitol building.
Trucks and barriers and because of terrorism.
Because we live in that type of country right now. We live in that time frame of war and problems, and this is what makes it difficult. But one of the things that I really have to say is, I've never seen so much animosity for an incoming president in my lifetime that I'm seeing with this one. Now, had Hillary Clinton won this election, would we be seeing the quote-unquote deplorables doing the same thing?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think there'd be some protests.
Yeah.
I think there would be some outcries, but I don't think we'd see it on the manner that they are. And the worst part about it is, they're doing it from a position of me. This is what I want, and he's going to take it away. He's going to take away my food stamps. He's going to take away my illegal aliens. He's going to take away my.
Oh, wait a minute, undocumented. Let's not. Don't be. You know, you'll be called. You'll be called
everything
a
under
racist.
the sun.
That's it. You can't do that. So we changed the name to make it feel. No, but you're right. Look, the reality is, but you know, this is a symptom of the society, the evolution of this society. We have wimpified this country. If you can't get your way, you don't work harder to succeed. What you do is you whine and you cry and you expect to be given everything. I mean, I just saw on the national news the other night that one of the highest percentages of people with student loans are grandparents now. Now the kids today even have their grandparents subsidizing their schooling. So they don't have student loans. They don't have anything. They don't have their own apartments. They don't have their own cars. So daddy and mommy and grandma and grandpa give them everything. And then we're going to wonder, you know, 40 or 50 years down the line when we're gone, why this country is destroyed, why it decayed from within. It's because non-result oriented sports, little Johnny can't feel bad because we don't want him to feel persecuted because he lost. Well, that's not the way the rest of the world works. That's not the way the real world works even in this country. You've got to learn that you have choices in life. You get knocked down, you get up. If you suck at baseball, practice and get better. But no, you don't have to do that anymore. You suck at something, you can suck. That's fine. Go out there and get beat 99-0, but then they can't have a score because that might make you feel bad. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't translate into functional adult human beings. Because once you're an adult and you're out in the real world, mommy and daddy's not going to help you. They can give you an apartment to live in. They can pay for your tuition. But when you go to work and you can't handle it because you've never had to deal with any adversity in your entire life, you're not going to succeed because you're not equipped to learn that you've got to get up and you've got to fight for what you want. You get out what you put in this life. You know, there was I think it was Winston Churchill who said life is like a grindstone. And it's your choice whether that grindstone grinds you down or polishes you. Which is a way of saying you've got to deal with the adversity, the grind of everyday life. We're not preparing our generation and the last couple of generations to succeed in life. So now we see it on a national level. This country has always been able to get by it. Hey, I didn't particularly like George Bush. I didn't like Jimmy Carter. But he was the president. So you move on. And I don't have any objection to people not liking certain people's agendas. Work on your agenda. If you don't want to see Obamacare repealed, work. Talk to your congressman, do everything you can. Fight the fight. If you lose the fight, you have an alternative. Don't whine in the streets. Don't cry. Don't be babies and have demonstrations because, oh, he's not going to be my president. I'm not going to participate. Well, united we stand, divided we fall. So what is your recourse? You don't like what this guy does? He repeals things. His agenda isn't the same. Elect people in the next election who will push your agenda. That's the process. That's the political process. But we don't have that process anymore. It's like if we don't like you, we're just going to leave the game. The hell with it. We're not going to participate. So we're going to have almost half the country not participating. We're not going to move forward that way. You know, we can have divisions, we can have disagreements, but we've got to be united as a nation to move the nation forward. And it's just, I mean, it drives me crazy when I see that. I mean, I turn on the talk shows. There's still, every single show is berating, Donald Trump and making fun of him. Fine, okay, presidents always get kind of poked at and, Saturday Night Live, but I mean, this is just ridiculous. I've never seen anything like this, and I've been involved in a political process for a very, very long time.
And, the thing that really bothers me, and it bothers me a great deal because when you start listening to a lot of this bull, it's unbelievable. You have, 50 and 60 Democratic representatives and senators that are not showing up to the inauguration because they're going to make a statement. Yeah, you're making a statement that you don't care what the people want. You're making a statement that you don't care what your government has. And you're making a very clear statement that I don't care what this president tries to do, I'm not going to work with them. So you've already marked yourselves as people that we're not going to give you what you want because it's tit for tat. When you need something and you move forward, they're going to say, well, where were you at my inauguration? And people say, oh, that's not how government works. You know what?
Yes, it is.
That's human nature. That's how human nature is, okay? You stuck it in my back, so I'm going to stick it in yours. And, they say the smooth, peaceful transition of power. Yet you have 50 or 60 Democrats. And I'm going to make that clear. 50 or 60 Democrats that are trying to make this statement. And I agree. They have the freedom to do this, and that's their right. But what bigger agenda are you going to be serving? What are you trying to prove? He is the president. Now, let me ask you something, you 50 or 60 people that say, I'm not going. What if this had been Hillary Clinton and the Republican-controlled House turned around and said, none of us are going? What would you have said?
Oh,
How would you have looked at
You'd
it?
still hear the whining.
Right.
But look, this is why it really disturbs me to see the way this nation is going. We're like a bunch of children, and you pull your lip and you go to you ignore, you run away from your parents. It's like, and we even see it on the city level. If the mayor doesn't get his way, and he's a millennial, if he doesn't get his way, he goes out and berates everybody. I had a conversation about that the other day. Somebody was talking about him on the radio berating the city councilors and calling them names. And look, I told that individual, listen, city councils are elected to oversee the money and the spending. And that doesn't mean that they have to do everything the mayor wants, or they are elected to oversee the money, not to, he proposes, they dispose. They look at something, they don't feel the expenditure is proper, or they don't agree with it, they vote it. And guess what? I hate to say this, but they are entitled to their opinion, even if we disagree. If somebody takes a position as a city councilor and he feels that he is looking out for the interests of the taxpayer and the way his money is spent, it's up to the public to determine whether he's an obstructionist or he's actually an advocate for the people, not the mayor. The mayor doesn't get to act like a petulant child. Every time you disagree with me, you're some kind of obstructionist, or you don't have the best interest of Fall River. Well, you're a city councilor. You're commissioned to oversee the money and to ensure that it's spent in the best interest of the taxpayer.
Which they have so far failed to do.
Well, yeah. But that's the thing, CJ. They have a right to make decisions. They have a right. That's what they were elected to do. Now, it's not the mayor that has to criticize them, because it's the mayor's job to come up with his ideas. It's their job to see if they want to give them the money. That's the way government works. They're legislative, not executive. And you know who makes that decision? We do, the people. When we look at the city council, if we feel that a city councilor or a bunch of city councilors or all the city councilors are not working in the best interest of the city of Fall River, and they are obstructing the movement forward of Fall River, or we feel just the opposite, that they are actually looking out and trying to not waste the taxpayers' money, guess what? If you agree with them, you re-elect them. If you disagree with them, you elect someone else. That's the process. But what we have now is a government of convenience. If you don't agree with me, I boycott you. I call you names. We got Donald Trump, racist, xenophobe, you name it. He's everything. So what do? We don't participate in government anymore. If I don't like the way the game's going, I take my ball and I go home. If the mayor doesn't like what the city council does, he runs to the radio and condemns everybody that doesn't disagree with him. Well, guess what? Last time I checked, you were not omnipotent. None of us are. This is government. The people will decide if they're happy with the city council or not. You propose, they do their job. Their job is to say, am I going to give you the money to do this? They don't like your branding campaign? That's their prerogative. They don't want to give you the money? That's their prerogative. I don't agree with the bargaining, with the branding campaign. And any councilor that opposes it, I'm on his side on this issue. I may not be on his side on another issue, but I think it's a waste of money. We've said that numerous times on this show. But that's the way this government works. You and I can say this branding campaign is absolute crap, and if he can convince 5 city councilors to give them the money, then it's up to people like us not to vote for those 5 people in the next election. I mean, this is what disturbs me about this. The attitude of, if I don't get my way, I take my ball and go home. I don't participate anymore. And that's horse manure.
But that's what people are doing now, and I mean, it's not. It doesn't give a good light to Fall River or to this country, and that's the sad part about it. Now, both of us have been in politics for a number of years, whether it be in the private sector, like you as a union president. I have run for public office, and the worst thing that you have is, when you run and you're making good points and you make very serious predictions, which I'm sure you as president made very serious predictions on what would happen if these things happen, and they come true. And then the people come back and say, oh, I really should have listened to you then, but you didn't. Do I say, too bad, sour grapes, whatever the case may be? No. I won, I ran, I lost, no problem. You ran, you won, no problem. And I was always a gentleman about it. But I didn't say, I'm going to make a statement and say, no, too bad. I'm not going to support you. I disagreed with my opponent, I think, on every issue going and every vote he ever took. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't going to respect him.
Yeah. And you follow the process as we do.
Exactly.
As a union president, I took my position on every issue. Now, most of the time, the membership supported me, but there were times they disagreed and they took a vote. I didn't say, well, because you voted against what I wanted to do, I'm not going to do it, even though I'm the president.
Right.
I had to live with that and try to move forward. Now, that didn't stop me from advocating for my position again, just as now. I'm not sitting here and saying that I'm going to support everything Donald Trump does. I may not support anything he does.
Exactly.
But the fact is that if I don't support it, I will be vocal against it. I will plead my case as I did on a union floor or on a convention floor or on a show. I will give you my position, and I will tell you why I have that position. And if I can sway enough people to win, well, I win. If I don't, I lose. But I'm not going to just not participate anymore. That's like people go, oh, after this election, I'm never going to vote again. Well, you moron. Well, if you do that, you keep getting people that you don't want in office. I mean, the only way that we can get the government we want is participate. And that means that you have to participate whether you win or lose. And you and I both had numerous times when, we took a position and our position did not prevail. But that we didn't just quit. Time to throw in the towel. I didn't get my way. I'm taking my football and I'm going home.
No, we did it the right way. We looked at why did it fail, why was the position not accepted, and we did a rehash. We always do that. But I think one of the things that you have to remember is when we were told no, we didn't turn around and stamp our feet and say, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because guess what? But, we have this in our current administration, and we've had this throughout the country and in other administrations and whatnot. And it's just terrible. But, hey, it is what it is. This is what we got because this is what the people wanted. So we will accept it, and we will move forward, and we will see what happens. Because, again, this man doesn't take the oath of office for another 40 minutes. And they're already saying he's got to do this and he's got to do that, he's going to do this. Guess what? We don't know what he's going to do. We didn't know what Obama was going to do. We didn't know what Bush was going to 43 was going to do. We didn't know what Bill Clinton was going to do. We didn't know what Bush 41 was going to do. We have no idea until it happens.
And not only that, and he's not going to get everything he wants to do done.
Exactly.
Because he's got to get it through Congress. And
Exactly.
he's got, and I mean, that's the way the government's set up. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, you've got to grasp the reality of, what the way the society is going. We pretend certain things don't exist. It's like, no, I mean, and I'll be perfectly frank. Nothing irritates me more than hearing the word undocumented. It's like we've got a name for everything.
Right.
You got a kid that's a pain in the neck. You say, oh, he's got attention deficit disorder. Really? Does every kid that misbehaves, maybe he doesn't have enough discipline. Maybe you haven't given him enough behavior modification. But we've got a name for everything now. So now it's like, well, we've got illegal aliens. But if you call them illegal, somebody might actually realize that these people are not here legally. So we'll change the name to undocumented, and that makes it much easier. Because you see, these people now they're just undocumented. That's all they are.
Yeah.
No, they're illegal. You know, there are people that are waiting to get in this country legally that can't get in, and there are literally millions of people in here illegally that are affecting this government. And whether you agree about the amnesty or disagree, let's be, for God's sakes, have enough courage to call a spade a spade. They're illegal. They didn't come into this country legally. They're not undocumented. They're illegals. And if you want to say, okay, I'm going to accept the fact that they're illegal, and I will, now for this particular case, I will ignore the law. In this case, these people get to violate the law and actually get rewarded. If that's the position you want to take, I vehemently disagree with it, but you can take it. I'm not saying you can't take it. I think I think that's a ridiculous position. And I don't want to hear about all all the collateral damage that it causes because of the people's kids. Well, guess what? They came here illegally. Try to go into another country illegally and see if they'll actually change all the laws in their country just to suit you. Go to a European country and demand. Go to Paris, please. Go to Paris and walk into the registry of motor vehicles or whoever gives out licenses, and you tell them, I want you to give this test in English. And see how long it takes them to get the gendarmes to throw you out in the middle of the Champs-Élysées. So, the fact is that it doesn't happen in the rest of the world.
But
Only in the United States do we turn around and take people who violated our laws and then manipulate the law to help them.
Right.
Because why? They've become a voting bloc. It's got nothing to do with whether this action is right or wrong. All this is politics. Because they've become a political issue and a voting bloc. And that's the only reason, because if they were a minority and they weren't a voting power now, you know something? The Democrats would be building the wall.
Yep, I know. And, always remember the definition of politics. Poly meaning many and ticks meaning bloodsuckers.
That's right.
So let's get to some more bloodsuckers before we run out of time here. The governor is asking the House and the Senate for, guess what? A pay raise.
Money
By the pound.
Everybody gets a pay raise except the people who work for a living.
So the governor is asking, and not only the governor, but the entire elected cabinet up there, the lieutenant governor, the treasurer, the auditor, the secretary of state, they're all going to get a bump in their pay. It's going before the House and the Senate. Amazing that...
Which, by the way, the House and the Senate just got a pay raise.
Right, from the governor. Because
the governor.
Because
right.
he has to approve that.
So now it's quid pro quo.
Exactly. Tit for tat, baby. So, but when you take it, if you take it per capita, okay, the amount of money the governor is making is still less than what the mayor of Fall River makes. He makes $120,000 a year for 80,000 people. He makes he'll be making $185,000 a year for how many millions?
A lot, yeah. Millions.
So when you break it down to the per capita cost, he's actually getting paid pennies compared to Jason Correa.
Well, we already compared the mayor's salary to cities of our size throughout the country, and it's way out of line.
It's way out of line. So, but it's just
politics
amazing.
again. Isn't it amazing how they can't find money to help the working people? They don't ever want to give the COLAs to the retired, $360 a year to people who retire. They don't want to give Social Security increases, but they give themselves pay raises.
Of course.
Of tens of thousands of dollars. They've got millions to give themselves pay raises. They'll find money to give the drug addicts. They'll find money to give, subsidized housing. But the working people, and you wonder why the middle class is gone. They've allowed, this country is a disaster. And, people are still talking. We will find out after 12 o'clock today and in the coming months if Donald Trump does half of what he promises. And if he does, maybe this country will turn around. Because you know something? Maybe he will go after the pharmaceutical companies. I had a meeting yesterday with a regional director from Elizabeth Warren's, for Elizabeth Warren, who basically admitted, well, you can't do anything in Washington with the pharmaceutical companies. They own virtually all the politicians up there. So we're going to have a president who doesn't care. You can't buy him because he's a billion. Maybe he might do something good. And what are all these liberals that are making millions of dollars and they're so concerned about the poor, but they don't give them enough money? I mean, some of these movie actors and entertainers that were backing Hillary, if they gave 5% of their salary collectively, they could run a third world country. Feed it and rebuild a third world country. But they're all concerned. So what are they going to say if, I'm not saying he is, he may not, but what happens if he does take on the pharmaceutical companies? Are they going to give him any credit? I'm going to wait to see. Because so far, we haven't had, in the last 15 or 20 years, the pharmaceutical companies have become so powerful and so disgustingly, profit-oriented at the sacrifice of human life. It's beyond comprehension. So if this guy actually does do that it's not a little thing, that one thing, I want to see if everybody will support him. Let's see if the Democrats in Congress and the Republicans support some kind of control over the pharmaceutical companies. Let's see who's getting paid off. And are they going to give them credit for even making the attempt? Let's see. Let's see what happens. We've got maybe 31, 32 minutes before he gets sworn in, and
32 minutes.
And let's. I'm gonna invoke one of the zombie sayings. Let's give him a chance.
Yeah.
Or at least a week anyway. We're not going to give him a year like we gave Jazel, but let's give him a chance to see that if he actually is going to attempt to do something constructive.
Well, according to his people, he's going to do it at 5 o'clock because he'll get back to the White House at 5 after all the celebrations before he has to go out for the nighttime balls and galas, and he's going to sit down at that desk, take out that presidential pen, and start signing a bunch of executive orders. So it's going to be interesting. So come Monday, we'll be back, and I'll tell you now, I'm hoping the rubber hits the road and we actually get something that's going to be worthwhile to talk about and not have to be mean.
I will make a bold prediction. When we get back here Monday, this country still will be intact.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
I know it will be. Hey, have a great weekend, and remember, stay angry.
Very angry.